So now we have around 1500 and the dome is built for 300 years now. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Every time when money is there, we build a bit more. But then we have this really expensive shrine where the bones of the three holy kings are to present to the pilgrims who come to Cologne. And they're now in a church that looks like this. It's around 1500 after Christ. So you have the towers like half built. In the middle part there's nothing. And then you have the end part, which is used as the church at the time. And the Cologne people just say, yeah, it's okay, it's enough. Just keep it like that. Yeah, that's okay. So the building crane, which is on top of one of the towers, stand there for 300 years. It's just a wooden building crane from medieval times, but it becomes the sightseeing point number one in Cologne. And it's just okay with the Cologne people. Yeah, that's us. We are the ones with the building crane. And around 1800, Napoleon is here with the French and takes over the whole place. And he's not interested in church at all. So he just sees the building and says, yeah, okay, that's my new horse stable. And for around 20 years, it's just used as a horse stable. And Napoleon is the one who just starts to clean up in Cologne. He starts to make an end to all the bribery, nepotism. He starts to get order. So he gets every street named, everything gets a house number. So the Cologne Dome as a horse stable also gets a house number. That's the reason why we have the 4 still today at the Cologne church. And this number 4 is the most stolen house number in the whole city. So every time when it gets stolen, it's just hang up a bit higher, but it's only a matter of weeks until it's stolen again. So the people, I think the people ring it up just have a lot of numbers. They just, every time it gets a new number. So now it's just used as a horse stable. It's not a church at all. But after the French get kicked out of Cologne around 1860, 1870, they start to have this new German feeling, this new national feeling, because before Germany was split into parts, but now after they won over the French, it's a new feeling about, okay, we are all one, we are all German people, and the new crowned Kaiser of this Germany, he was the king of Preußen, now he's Kaiser of Germany. He comes to Cologne and sees these unfinished building, and he says, okay, no, that's a disgrace. We as the German people, we want to finish this building and show how proud we people in Germany are of our church, of our buildings. And he starts to get money for this building, and everyone gives a little bit. So it's the first, we say, crowdfunding of a real big church. The people of Cologne, everyone who has a bit money gives a bit money. The Kaiser gives a lot of money. A lot of people say, okay, it was a lot stolen money from the state's treasury, but we don't care. So only 30 years later, this dome is finished. And in the year 1880, they have a big parade around here and open it up officially. But as you can see over there, there's always building on the dome. Never is there a time when there's no buildings happening. So for over 800 years, the Cologne Dome is just a building base. It's always something that has to be repaired, that has to be fixed. And so there's a common sentence in Cologne that if we really finish to build our church, either our football club gets Meister, wins our national championship, or the world comes to that. So how you can imagine, we only just once got the Meister title. That was when they had for 2 weeks no buildings here. And we don't want to risk it a second time. So always something that gets built here. Is here someone who wants to guess how much money it costs at a day to build always on the Cologne Dome? No one wants to guess how much it costs?
Today?
One day. At one day, how much does it cost on one day?
10,000 euros?
10,000 is not even enough. It's 33,000 a day. It's 12 million a year to just keep it going, the reparations and everything. So every time when there's a lot of money, we just build a bit more. If there's no money, it just doesn't, it's only the really needed fixes. So the real problem now is no one owns this stone. No one owns it, so no one is responsible to pay for it. So the Catholic Church pays around 17% just because they are allowed to use it. It's like rent they pay. Then the city of Cologne and NRW, North Rhine-Westphalia, they have to pay around 30%, and all the rest is just from people who give a little bit money, from the tower tours they give, from everything that has to do with the holding up of the dome. So there's a lot money that comes just by Christians giving to keep up the building. So if you have money left, just give a little bit to the dome. All the designs and everything, that's typical Gothic style, and they started out with these Gothic elements, like there's a lot of leaves, there are these little statues on top, but every other year we have new dome building chief, and they have their own things they want to integrate. So every time something is just old, needs fixing, they started to have new little statues everywhere, and over the time they went a bit crazy. So we have a lot of, especially on the top where no one can see it, there's a lot of known people in Cologne who have their own statues, and they started to just, who cares about the Holy Roman Church people? We just have our people on top of the church. I think there's a statue of Kennedy on top there. Then we have the football club mascots. There are billy goats here in Cologne. The mascot is a billy goat, and every time the mascot dies, we get a new one in the Cologne Zoo. So at the moment it's the 9th. It's always called Hennes, Billy Goat Hennes, the 9th at the moment, and all his successors, the 8 billy goats that were before him, they all have their own water spire statues, so the ones where the water comes out. There are a lot of billy goats on the Cologne Dome, so there's a crazy amount of, if you know what it means and what they are supposed to show, you think, okay, the Colonians just, they went crazy. But the common theme is Gothic. So normally at the 1248, when they started to build it, Gothic was not really a thing. So these big windows and everything, they didn't know how to do it then. But a few years later, in the time span of building this for 300 years, this Gothic building style just took over because it was common style for the time, and they kept with it because you can't just switch styles in the middle of building. One really interesting part is this iron roof, because Cologne was one of the first churches who had an iron roof, other than in Paris, Notre Dame, which burned down now because of the wooden roof. This was really practical. It was a perfect target, and a lot of bombs came down here, but because of the iron roof, a lot of them just spread and just came down around the dome, and the dome stayed mainly intact. The windows they had before the war, they just took out all the windows and hid them somewhere. And even the big bells in the tower, they stayed after the war because a lot of German bells were just melted to build weapons. And it was in the First and in the Second World War just a thing every German city had to do: get down your bells and melt them for weapons. But of course there are letters we have now in our history museum from the Nazi chiefs who just sent to the Cologne people letters with asking them, okay, please get your bells down and just melt them in, we need weapons. And first there are 3 letters from the Nazis to the Cologne people with just asking them, okay, yeah, do it now, and there's no response. So every time they just got this letter, they read the letter and just said, yeah, later, we don't answer, just forgot that we got this letter. And the 4th letter it's at the end of the war, so it's really now shit is happening, please. And the 4th letter, if you read it, it's like, okay, yeah, do it now, melt your bells, or we will come and get your bells and melt them to build weapons. And the Colognes just sent an answer. It's a really nice written answer about, yeah, we really believe in the Nazi ideology, and we think, yeah, of course, yeah, it looks like we are losing, but we believe that we are able to defeat everyone else and we will win this war. But if we win this war and everywhere in Germany the bells are melted down, there's no church who can celebrate the winning of the war. But the Cologne people, nice as they are, we would give our bells to this holy purpose to celebrate the end of the war. And they just sent this letter. It was really written well, letter about how important it is that there's one church left with bells. And there really came an answer like, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we accept, that's okay. So Cologne was the only big city where the bells were able to survive the war. And these are the bells from the 1600s still in the tops. The biggest one is, we call them the Dicke Piet. It's like the Fat Peter. This bell is 24 tons heavy. And it's only allowed to ring on really high church days because it's so heavy, so big. If it rings, the towers begin to crumble a little bit. So we don't want to do it too often, but it's really cool. Okay, that's what I would tell about the dome. If no one has other questions, otherwise just keep going. Okay.